No, I did have the chance to work with Brad. He was the college director when I first joined as Les's assistant, and learned a ton from him, really just about the landscape of scouting from the bottom all the way to the finished product. And there is absolutely some things that I'll carry forward from him, knowing that, he's had a lot of success in Detroit, and he's leaned into a lot of the things that we've already began preaching as a part of what we'll prioritize in players and make it so that, top of mind is intangibles, and we'll remain rooted in that moving forward. Currently, I'm living in Indianapolis, and then I will return to Jacksonville here in a handful of days and start looking for a new home that's a little bit more permanent. But my wife is, in fact, pregnant, and she is due at the end of May. So we got about a 30-day travel window before we can, work with here, bring it all to life. So, there's a shot clock for sure.
What do you look for in an interview with a player?
You know what? That's a great question. I think at this stage of the game, we're rooting ourselves in the film and getting a better understanding of what they can draw from their own tape and articulate for us, and then working in some of our own terminology and seeing how fast they can pick that up. Obviously, in a 20-minute conversation, you're not necessarily going to know the entire human being, and you probably don't want to weight too much stock, knowing that these guys are up late and they got a full slate in front of them. So whether or not you're seeing the best or worst of them is to be determined. So certainly leave it open-ended even as they exit the room.
Hey James, the Rams haven't really come to the Combine in the last few years. So I'm just curious, what do you think that you guys are going to get out of it here this year with this team?
Yeah, so with that, I haven't been to the Combine since 2019, but there's an extreme value to the Combine and the event that's put forward. Now, with that, I think the fact that we're a new coaching staff, a new general manager working with our scouting staff, this is a great opportunity for an offsite and just build some of the connective tissue that otherwise wouldn't necessarily exist because we'd just be in our normal mode of operation in Jacksonville. So we're already meeting today, tomorrow, and beyond with our pro scouting staff and our coaching staff, working through the initial conversations around our roster as well as the pro free agent landscape, while also working in some of the conversations that are specific to the draft. So it's a great dynamic at this stage, and really looking forward to more that comes with the rest of the week.
Just from your perspective, what kind of coach is Liam, and what can players kind of expect to get out of him?
He's an elite communicator, and I think that bridges a lot of gaps. But when it comes to his offensive philosophy, the marriage between the run and the pass, the multiplicity of the screen game, the variety of the run game, he gives this team a notable edge, and I think that that's something that everybody's going to appreciate.
Coming into this stage of the process, what's an area where you feel like you can put your stamp on this draft process, even though it's a little bit late in the calendar?
Yeah, I don't think the timing is going to impact it at all. I do think that the disciplined approach to prioritizing the things that you've probably heard me say over and over at this point is going to be something that I think everybody's going to appreciate, both players, coaches, and staff.
We saw the Commanders embrace virtual reality technology. I was curious if that's something we can look into, and I don't know what that option is of improvement. What would you characterize yourself as a career there?
You know what? That's a fair question. I haven't put a lot of thought into it. I think that's probably more rooted in what our players and coaches would say that they would prefer to use. And so if that ever comes to life and shows itself, we're certainly going to pursue those options.
What do you like about the draft in terms of strengths when you look at this particular group of players?
I like it all.
A lot has been made of chain of command. You guys have an interesting chain of command structure where you all report to the owner. How do you kind of see that playing out with the draft and during the season?
You know what? One of the most alluring and intriguing pieces to this opportunity was the fact that the leadership group and the dynamic actually mirrors what I'm most familiar with in Los Angeles. So it was one that I could see a clear visual for finding success. So really excited about the opportunity to work with Tony and Liam and support both of them and bring Liam's vision to life here in these next few weeks and into the later portion of the spring through the draft.
How tough is it for you to be able to, I don't want to say start from scratch, but it's not like you can bring some of the materials you had from the Rams over, so you're like, still looking for places, to live, and so how difficult is it when you got to hand out millions of dollars in free agency in like 3 weeks to kind of, you can choose different words and start from scratch if you want, but where are you usually with the timeline with the Rams in the past few years that you've been doing this versus where you are now with free agency and everything?
It's really no different from a timeline standpoint. during this week, if we were with Rams, we'd be having pro free agent related dialogue. That's what we're currently doing with the Jaguars. And so there's no real difference on that front. Now, in terms of, what you may say is me getting up to speed, I'm going to calibrate my own mode of operation to the Jaguars' current mode of operation. One person changing rather than a large group changing in the immediate mode is going to be a little bit more efficient and less disruptive. I think adaptability is certainly a key trait that any leader or person in this space is going to have to embrace, and that's one I look forward to deploying so that our entire group actually sees that in action, and really just looking forward to learning, right? Because I've only known it through the lens that I've experienced, and so I really look forward to getting an opportunity to digest a different way of moving about business.
What's another lens you're excited about?
Another lens. I don't know. Do I say the word too much?
Having spent so much time in Los Angeles with Wes, what are some things from a roster construction standpoint that you kind of have a goal to bring with you to Jacksonville?
Where it stands right now, I think we'll prioritize positions that really are across the front, both offensively and defensively, and those that put points on the board. That's where my mind goes when you ask a question like that, and beyond it, we'll continue to round out.
You guys have a lot of youth in leadership positions. How is that a strength for you guys?
Yeah, I think I view it as a key strength because really, I have a fresh perspective, and I think that's also the case for both Liam and Tony. And through my own experiences, I feel like I have a deep understanding of really the tools and modern mechanisms that are revolutionizing the sport. And so I don't ever view the number of years that I've had on planet Earth as a limitation, but just my preferred way of moving is one that I think can bring a dynamic asset and an edge over the competition.
Liam said in his opening press conference he didn't think this was a 4-win team in terms of talent. Do you view it similarly?
Yeah, I think that the talent that exists on this team is better than that record. Look forward to bringing that to life, and we're going to elevate the floor of the roster immediately.
What do you think Trevor Lawrence's strengths are, and what are some things in this draft that you can get around him to kind of bring that out even more?
Yeah, I don't think we've seen the best of Trevor, and I'm really excited for Liam to get a chance to work with him, support him, and really bring the tools that he has in his arsenal to life. And I think it starts by the protection, right? Making sure that he feels like he's got as much time to work with as possible, and also that he's comfortable with the pass catchers. And so I think through that lens, he's going to feel that change in both the operation schematically and then the personnel that we invite into the building.
Christian Kirk, way before you got here, obviously, but he had been linked to trade rumors before his injury. Is that something that's back on the table now?
No, I wouldn't say that. We're just starting the conversations about our own current roster across both scouting and coaching staff, as well as working in pro free agent related dialogue. So at this point in time, can say that we're happy to have Christian.
What's your favorite part of the pre-draft process in terms of film evaluation, meet these guys face to face? What gives you the most juice?
I would say being in the bunker with the crew. I think through that, building connective tissue, creating a team dynamic that you can be really proud of, that's one of the most fulfilling elements.
One thing we didn't get to ask you yesterday, knowing your St. Louis roots, you and Mark Lampton, did you have any sort of relationship? Did you know Mark before your interviewing process with Jacksonville?
It actually wasn't until I began the process and Mark made the initial call that we tied that together. So it was a pleasant surprise, and one certainly we leaned into after that. But no, I was unfamiliar, and now, my dad, right? So he's a former high school teacher and football coach, second generation, and he really sparked my interest in the sport and also becoming a teacher. And so I was rooted in my high school from a young age, actually wanted to return there, and my dream was to be the head coach there, just like my dad, eventually become the athletic director, and 1 year into that had pivoted to go work with my father after he came out of retirement at another school. Now, very lucky in that the same day that I arrived on campus, Les Snead and Logan Snead arrived to sign up for our football program. Now, through that, I do remember, now that I think back, but didn't know it at the time, Mark's name up on the walls throughout Vianney High School. So it's flashing back, but was never something that I was actually aware of even prior or thinking about.
He made the initial call to you, though?
Yes. Yeah, he was leading the process and lining up interviews, etc. Yeah. I think the ability to create disruption is above all else most important, and that type of chaos, it makes it hard for an offensive operation. And so I lean into that more than just about anything, and I think the combination of urgency and explosiveness is something that I certainly prefer.
James, considering the Jonah Jackson situation in Los Angeles, how will that affect how you approach the Jaguars offensive line this season?
Won't speak to Jonah exactly because he's not on our roster, but I do think that by addressing the interior, that setting the dish for a quarterback is something that can be really helpful to their success.
What do you think about the running back position in the state in the NFL right now? Sometimes for a little while it seemed like it was being devalued, and last year we saw a little bit of a resurgence. Do you think that's a trend that's going to continue, or Saquon and Derrick Henry's success, is that kind of just
It certainly feels like it's a shift. It's certainly going to be something that we prioritize. You can see the success that Liam had last year in the running game. It's certainly something we value. I think that, the landscape of the NFL is ever evolving, and you're always finding ways to, maybe exploit some inefficiencies on the opposite side of the football, and that might be something that is showing itself here for people.
Do you think this is a deep running back class? If you got to watch any of the prospects as far as running backs?
I think it's a very deep running back class.
The defense in LA was pretty dirty, pretty nasty. Is that something you're going to look at? And obviously, you also had some trends where you drafted a couple guys from a particular school and you saw how they played together. Can you talk about that process? Does that lean into anything? And are there any other? Are you going to do that here in Jacksonville?
I definitely think there's merit to that. I think that building on that type of momentum makes life easy. It makes it so that there's an immediate impact. Anybody that's doing something alone, it's usually a little easier when you're working in combination with somebody that you're aligned with and know you can work off of. So it'll definitely be something, if the opportunity ever presents itself, that we would love to bring to life in different ways. And then what was your first part of your question? I'm sorry.
Just talk about the defense that you had in LA. But you basically answered everything.
I got you. No, we'll be an urgent and explosive bunch on defense. It'll certainly be a shift from what our fans probably saw last year. Yeah, really excited about his ascension in year 2, and I think he'll have a part in the offense moving forward in a way that we haven't seen yet. Thank you all. Appreciate it.